The Mike Wagner Show is powered by Sonic Web Studios. If you're looking to start or upgrade your online presence, visit www.sonicwebstudios.com for all of your online needs. Sonic Web Studios specializes in custom web design, app development, social networking, search engine optimization, domain registration, email marketing, online stores, and more. Since our birth, we have been designing and developing immaculate websites and providing web solutions which are a cut above the rest. As a leading web designing enterprise, we have a team of extremely talented web designers who are well-focused and have the experience of working on multiple web developing platforms such as PHP, Magento, custom WordPress, and more. Sonic Web Studios has been helping businesses of all kinds, whether big, small, established, or startup, impress their audiences with exemplary web solutions. We don't just create beautiful and functional websites. We give you a complete online solution with the main goal of enhancing your yearly revenues. We aim to give your business the online exposure and brand acknowledgement that will help you in achieving increased conversions leading to profitable sales. Call 1-800-303-3960 or visit us online at www.sonicwebstudios.com to get started today. Mention the Mike Wagner Show and get 20% off your project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level.
Hey everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show. It's time to give a shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international award-winning author Mian Mohsen Zia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, then you'll love Missing by Mian Mohsen Zia. Available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. It takes place in 4 countries with 2 strangers and 1 target where truth is an illusion and those you love will be the first to go missing. It's available in paperback and ebook on Amazon. Missing by Mian Mohsen Zia has garnered great reviews and is even loved by Hollywood celebrities including Joanna Cassidy, Forbes Riley, and many others. So grab your copy today. Order Missing by Mian Mohsen Zia, now available at Amazon.
It's now time for the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. The Mike Wagner Show can be heard on Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, iTunes, Anchor FM, Radio Public, and the MikeWagnerShow.com. Mike brings you great guests and interesting people from all across the globe. So sit back, relax, and enjoy another great episode of the Mike Wagner Show.
Hey everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Looking at a professional website without breaking your budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today at 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show, get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, check out the latest novel by well-known award-winning author Mian Mohsen Zia of No Time for Love called Missing, an extraordinary relationship between 2 ordinary people based on real-life events that go through 4 countries, 2 strangers, and 1 target, where truth is an illusion and the ones you love will be the first to go missing. Check out the book on Amazon and other retailers, available on formats today. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com and on over 30 podcast platforms, including Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also on Anchor FM, iTunes, Google Play, Apple, Amazon, Audible, coming soon to Podbean, Buzzsprout, Pandora, TuneIn, and heard worldwide on Radio Public, Geo7, Himalayan, and more. Take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on YouTube channel and follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. We're here with a terrific gentleman from Southwest Ohio. He's been a host of a national public radio station since 1984, and he also is considered the present-day Emerson and Thoreau. He'll tell you why. And he's also got some books out called Home is a Prime Meridian and Daybreak for March and Yellow Springs and more. He's won several awards from Ohio Newspaper Association, and he's also a host of a very popular podcast since 2006. And of course, he's full of practical info, philosophical insights, and very whimsical stories. And live, ladies and gentlemen, from the Plush Studios in beautiful Southwest Ohio, the home of Poor Will's Almanac, ladies and gentlemen, the Poor Will Almanac of Weather himself, Bill Felker. Bill, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us today.
Well, it's wonderful to be here, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's great to have you on board, and I got to listen to quite a few of your programs, and you just give a great forecast. And, of course, it makes me want to come down and enjoy this beauty. So you've basically been called the present-day Emerson and Thoreau, and you also have the Poor Will's Almanac been going on. You've been a host since 1984 on WYSO. It's a national public radio station, or NPR for short. You have a couple of books out. You've won several awards, and you hosted the Poor Will's Almanac podcast since 2006. And you also got a new book out called Poor Will's Almanac 2021. And before we get into all that, tell us how you first got started, Bill.
How did, say again?
How did you first get started?
How did I first get started? Well, when I was in college, my wife gave me a barometer because I was going crazy with all my studies, and I started graphing the ups and downs of the needle, and I got hooked on it. And I started making graphs, and I found all these relationships that you don't usually hear about on the weather forecasts between high pressure and low pressure and rain and snow and so forth. And I found that there was a pattern. And the patterns that I have followed since that time, back in the 70s, are they're the results of my early experiments with graphing, and they've created a whole system of weather forecasting, which is available in my weather book, which is available on Amazon and other outlets. But that was just the start. The real almanacs took place or came out of my nicotine addiction. It's the truth. I was killing myself with Lucky Strikes back in the 80s, and I decided I had to quit, and I kept trying and I couldn't. I just couldn't do it. But then I started walking in the woods, and I walked, and pretty soon I was able to give up the evil cigarettes, and I started making notes. I'm an obsessive note taker, and so these notes turned into a giant pile of information that I turned into a day book, which is on my website and on Amazon too. And from that day book, I started creating an almanac. And I went to the local paper, a weekly paper here in Yellow Springs, Ohio, where I live, and I asked the editor, "Hey, I've got enough information for an almanac." And he said, "Okay, but if you do one, you got to do more. You can't just do one almanac." So I've been doing a weekly almanac since 1984. I can't stop. So that's the story about how it got going.
And of course, it just made me think, too, does it make you want to study meteorology or become a weatherman or something? I mean, you describe in such great detail, and I think you make a great weatherman.
Well, it's fun. If I had, my wife used to tell me I should have been I should have been a scientist, but instead I became something in between a humanist and an almanacker and whatever that is. I like to watch the weather and the stars and the sky and the land around me, and I find there's so much to learn just looking, that it's a shame to have to go to school to learn that too. I've been a teacher. I've taught school for almost 50 years, and I didn't want to go back into something I loved like the weather. It sounds crazy, but it's more fun doing it yourself with a barometer and with records than it is studying out of a book.
Yeah, and of course, I was just thinking about it too, like with the barometer that was given to you by wife, your wife in 1972, and it made me think of those birds were filled with mercury, where it was it was hand blown, glass, and it's like a bird, but you fill it with mercury, and it just bobs up and down. It just makes me think of it. Do you think that could have been accurate just as well too? It's like I think of the birds just bobbing up and down when it comes to high pressure and low pressure when it comes to a barometer.
Well, the barometric system was, I think there's a guy named Torricelli back in the 1600s invented the barometer, and sailors and travelers have been using that ever since. It's an amazingly accurate telling instrument, and you can use swelling of branches and so forth. You can measure barometric pressure, in other words, in a lot of different ways. It's fun, and it reveals things that you really can't get from your weather apps.
Mm-hmm. And of course, what are some of the things that people should know about that's like little known? You talk about the high pressure, the low pressure, and I think there's also some others too, like like in your case, hurricanes are created, tornadoes, or like say with dry spells, or maybe anything that people should know about, like say you don't get from the weather.
Well, Mike, I think if you look at a weather map in a newspaper or something, you'll see these various lines going across the country which indicate the cold fronts. And one of the things that I was excited to find out is that these cold fronts pass through the United States with pretty regular in a pretty regular fashion. So that there are about 60 to 70 major high-pressure systems, or cold waves, that pass across the United States in a given year.
Mm-hmm.
And they occur about every 4 or 5 days. And the weather that we're getting now is part of the Veterans Day cold front, the November 11th, 12th cold front that almost always comes across the country on those dates, or around that date. And when you have new moon or full moon, or when the moon is closest to the Earth, at perigee it's called, then you get stronger weather systems. Now, anybody can watch the moon and can keep track of barometric pressure, or just watch the sky, and you can tell when changes are going to occur. And it's fun. Of course, it's fun to check your weather app, but it's also fun to see how the signs of change occur in nature.
Mm-hmm. And of course, the one question I often ask people too, and I'm getting some interesting answers. And of course, up in what was it, Anchorage, Alaska, where it seems to be pretty warm in Alaska, and the rest is cold. But you have this cold pressure. Explain how Anchorage gets warmer than most parts of Alaska and the United States, especially with cold front that goes around, or a warm front.
Well, hey, you almost got me there, Mike. But that has to do with the jet stream, and the jet stream is sort of out of my realm. The regularity of the high pressure systems that cross the United States is related to the jet stream, but I'm not sure how that relates up in Alaska and at the Arctic Circle. We're getting melting in the Arctic and the Antarctic, and that obviously is going to have an effect on Alaska and northern Canada. Now, how that translates into the cold waves that come across the United States, I'm not sure. We are seeing a warming trends, though, like this past week here in the central part of the United States. It's been so warm and beautiful before this storm came through. So
Mm-hmm. And then lastly, too, before we talk about your books, what's a forecast that you're forecasting for the coming winter?
Well, what Poor Will's Almanac does is takes the history that I have of the cold waves that cross the nation during a year, and it translates those into storm forecasts. So the National Weather Service is predicting a milder than normal winter based on La Nina temperatures in the Pacific Ocean. What Poor Will's Almanac does is says, okay, that's fine, but the likely storms of this winter should occur pretty much in the middle of the month and the end of the month throughout December, January, February, and March. Why is that? It's because for example, in December 15th is the average date for the mid-December cold front, and it coincides with the new moon and perigee. That means we're going to have a storm. Mm-hmm. We're going to have colder than average temperatures after the storm, and we're likely to have a white Christmas. And now, full moon occurs around January 1st. And so, be careful when you're planning your New Year's Eve celebration, because you're likely to get zapped by a storm on New Year's Eve. And that pattern happens to hold true, and it doesn't hold true for every month, but it holds true in January and February also. So in the middle of January and the end of January, you can expect trouble. Mm-hmm. So if you're traveling, or if it depends on if you're in the South, if you're harvesting, or whatever you're doing, try to do it between new and full moon throughout the winter, because you're gonna, it's 75% likelihood based on my graphs that we'll have severe weather every 2 weeks throughout the winter, based on lunar fluctuations and the likelihood that the patterns will repeat themselves as they have forever. Around the 15th of the month and the end of the month. Mm-hmm. So there's your answer.
I think that sounds pretty accurate. In other words, if you're going over the hills and through the woods, grandmother's house you better be careful. And if you plan to go on New Year's, either go to your next door neighbors or stay home. I think we'll just do that for about several years, Bill. And we'll talk about your books in just a minute.
The Mike Wagner Show is powered by Sonic Web Studios. If you're looking to start or upgrade your online presence, visit www.sonicwebstudios.com for all of your online needs. Call 1-800-303-3960 or visit us online at www.sonicwebstudios.com to get started today. Mention the Mike Wagner Show and get 20% off your project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level.
Hey everybody, my name is Forbes Riley, and I'm an American actress and a TV host. And I was delighted when I got my copy of Missing, which is Extraordinary Relation of Ordinary People based on a real-life relationship. It's well written. It's amazing. It talks about a man who has lost his wife and his daughter, and it's very well done. I'm going to highly recommend that you go get your copy of Missing. It is a powerful, exciting read. Mr. Mian Moshe Zia. He is the author of Missing. And I want to give a big shout out and a kiss all the way halfway around the world to my dear friend. Check him out at Mia's website. It's called www.miamotionzea.com. Missing. Available on Amazon. Again, I'm Forbes Riley, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Hey everybody, it's Mike from The Mike Wagner Show. The Mike Wagner Show can be heard on over 30 podcast platforms, including Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor FM, iTunes, Google Play, Amazon, Audible, Apple, and more. Coming soon to Podbean, Buzzsprout, Pandora, and TuneIn, where The Mike Wagner Show interviews great guests, cool conversation, lots of laughs, coffee, and more. Take The Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to The Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel, and follow The Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today.
Hey, this is Ray Powers. And if there's one thing you can count on, In these unpredictable times, it's that you're in good hands getting some great radio, courtesy of The Mike Wagner Show.
We're here with the author of Poor Will's Almanac and also host of National Public Radio, Bill Felker, here on the Mike Wagner Show. Before we talk about your books, including Poor Will's Almanac of 2021, and you've been a host on public radio on WYSO since 1984. And once again, tell us you got started in public radio and tell us all about your wonderful program.
Well, now I got started in the newspaper column business back in 1984, but I didn't get involved with WYSO and NPR radio until 2006. So it's been maybe 14 years that I've had a weekly 2 to 3 minute segment on WYSO, and I've really enjoyed working in radio. The podcast that I have, or the show that I have, that runs every Tuesday here locally and is available on Spotify and on WYSO, is a program of reflection on nature. All of my walks in the woods and so forth, and all of the notes that those produced have helped me to think about life, and so I sort of share my thoughts. They're kind of I don't know, they're sermons in nature, and people tell me they're kind of a safe space among all of the craziness of the news and the stress of one thing or the other. It encourages people to sit back and just kind of look and see what's happening around them, and life is really good and it's beautiful. And so that's what I talk about, and a lot of it comes from just nature observations, and then what happens to me when I'm out there in the woods or when I'm walking and so forth. So anybody who goes fishing or wanders around or spends time out of doors probably knows what I mean. And the people who don't seem to appreciate the fact that they get to hear about it on the radio.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting to talk about how you combine all the stories with your newspaper experience, your experience on the weather, and also nature as well, too. Who are some of your favorite authors and writers growing up?
Well, growing up, I read a lot of biographies and stuff. Growing up, what happened to me was, and this is another story in itself, is when I was in grade school, the bishop, the local bishop, built a seminary, and I got recruited to go to the seminary in high school.
Oh, really?
So I had a seminarian's training in high school, and so it was kind of a classical education, but so to speak, right? But in that time, you weren't allowed to date girls or anything. You had to spend the evenings in the study hall, and I did a lot of reading, and that's where I discovered Thoreau and Emerson and read War and Peace and Moby Dick and did a lot of reading I probably would never have done if I'd gone to high school like a normal person. But what happened was that by the time I'd spent 4 years in the seminary, I was getting kind of restless, and so I left that behind and went on to other things. But the seminary allowed me time. I had to fill time because we had study halls, and I would get all my work done, and I had a lot of chance to read, and so I did.
Oh, wow. That is very interesting. You talked about Moby Dick and most of the classics, and what are some of your other favorite books you enjoyed?
Well, the Latin that I got in high school introduced me to Romance languages and to French. And the one of the things that happened to me is after I graduated from the seminary, I went to college for a couple of years, and then I was going crazy in college, and I quit school again. And the chaplain said, "Look, we've got an opening for a librarian and a grade school teacher down in Puerto Rico.
Oh, wow!
Would you like to go?" And I didn't know what I was doing, and so I said, "Sure, I'd love to go." and away I went, and I spent a year, and I lived in a monastery, and I bought a Vespa, and I would drive into town, maybe 3-4 miles away, and teach school, and then I could drive around the island, and a few of the other English teachers there, we got together in the evenings, and I remember we had we drank a lot of rum and listened to Frank Sinatra.
Frank and rum, I love that combination. Add the cigars to it. I should have been there with you.
Well, I don't know. I probably got my nicotine habit really revved up during that period of my life. But and so anyway, I learned some Spanish and did little traveling around and no, that was a very formative period. And again, what I did is I started reading some of the Spanish classics and so forth, and got interested in that, and I got interested in something called the Novel of the Land.
Novel of the Land.
The Novel of the Land was a phenomenon back in maybe 100 years ago, where Latin American authors were trying to come to terms with what it really meant to be living in the jungle, especially from Central America through northern Colombia and Venezuela. And the focus on these novels was the reaction of people in nature. And that was sort of the start of my interest in what happens to people, what happened to me, in fact, when you expose yourself enough to nature, as opposed to hiding out in civilized fashion at home and protected by air conditioning and heat and so forth. And so the psychology became very interesting to me, and that, in fact, is reflected in my SAD index, my Seasonal Affective Disorder Index, which is part of Poor Will's Almanac for 2021. So there's kind of a backdoor entry to my current interest, really, which is what happens to your mind in nature. And that's what the podcasts are all about, thinking about what do the seasons really do to you. Anyway, it's an endless pursuit, and it's a lot of fun.
It sounds like a lot of fun. And, of course, you're talking about the Seasonal Affective Disorder Index, or SADI, or SADI, whatever you call it, a numerical context. And does it go from like 1 to 10, 1 to 100, 1 to 1,000? And, it factors like, how do you measure it? And maybe you can give an example about a Seasonal Affective Disorder Index. And let's say, let's give your forecast today with the SADI index, and also other factors like, say, a cool day and running around, or just walking through and gentle breeze, and maybe give like a little example of it.
Okay, right. Now the SAD index measures the forces that are likely to cause seasonal affective disorder, and those include, first of all, the weather, and then the length of the day. Now that so that we obviously are getting into heavy territory here, as the day's length is almost at at full winter's length. And the cloud cover, because cloud cover, even from Florida to Montana, the cloud cover increases in the winter. It's less in the south, but it's still there. And the fourth factor is the moon. So you've got cloud cover, weather, the day's length, and the moon. I give each one of those forces a value of 25. And you add them all up and you get 100.
Okay.
Now, here we are on November 16th when we're talking. And by now, the amount of cloud cover is almost at winter level. So I give it a 23. The weather, well, it's still not as bad as it could be. So I'm giving it a 20, but it's getting cold. The day's length is almost at solstice length, and so that's a 23. So we're getting, the numbers are adding up there, right? 20, 40, 66, and then we've got new moon, which is not quite as bad as full moon, but we've got new moon with perigee, which was yesterday or day before, and that gives us about 24 on the scale. So we're looking at an SAD index score of above 80, close to 90.
Wow.
Which is terrible, right? So if you're feeling bad today, it's not too surprising. You might blame it on the pandemic or the election or whatever it is.
I think everybody's blaming on everything.
I know, but really there are all these forces that are contributing to what you might be feling. Now, not everybody's going to react the same way. I in fact had a great day today. So, and I don't know what that was from. I'm glad it happened. But the forces that can produce seasonal affective disorder are strong now. And so I think it's important to realize that. And people say, why do I feel so blah in the wintertime? Or I've got the winter blues or whatever. Well, it's measurable, basically. And that's what the SAD index does. And in my book, I've got reading or scores for every day from January 1st to December 31st. So you can kind of check and see. There may be a reason that you feel worse than you do.
Right, yeah. And, of course, we'll talk about what's coming up in the Poor Will's Almanac 2021 and more, including a forecast. But first, listen to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com. It's powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, check out the latest novel by well-known award-winning author Mia Moshinzia of No Time for Love called Missing. An extraordinary relationship between two ordinary people based on real-life events that go through 4 countries, 2 strangers, and 1 target, where truth is an illusion and the ones you love would be the first to go missing. Check out the book on Amazon and other retailers, available on all formats today. Also, The Mike Wagner Show can be heard on themikewagnershow.com and heard on over 30 podcast platforms, including Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also on Anchor FM, iTunes, Google Play, Apple, Amazon, Audible, and coming soon to Podbean, Buzzsprout, Pandora, and TuneIn. Take The Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to The Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel, and follow The Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. We're here with the author and podcast host of Poor Will's Almanac, Bill Felker, here on the Mike Wagner Show, and we had a great time talking about how you think you got started, a little bit of weather history, and it's not too horrible, as one of my guys would say. And we'll talk about the Poor Will's Almanac 2021. But first, you had some books prior to that, like a day book, let's say for July, and also Deep Time is in the Garden. And maybe tell us about a couple of your earlier books.
Well, my day book is a collection of all my notes that I made walking in the woods that I still make, and I update that every day. And I have a day book for each month of the year. In all, it amounts to 800,000 words in all 12 volumes, and it gives you a day-by-day history of natural history of what happens in the central United States. And so most of the notes that I have made are in southwestern Ohio, but I've found that, in fact, they're applicable throughout the East, and people use my notes in newspapers throughout the central and eastern and even southern part of the country. So the day book is a resource that allows you to find out not only what's happening in nature in general, but it shows you the day-by-day changes that take place. And you can't find this information anyplace else. So I feel it's a unique resource or reference for anybody who wants to watch what happens in nature. So if you want to know, what flowers are blooming at a certain time, or if you want to know what the weather's like for your wedding in August or April or whatever, you can check the day book because it has a daily weather summary. And it has a summary of the plants that are blooming and the weather, as well as a history of all these things. So the day book's my pride and joy. It's my favorite thing. And from that come all my podcasts and so forth. And my two essay books are collections of the podcasts. And so those really are sort of the guts or the heart of what I'm doing. The Poor Will's Almanac for 2021 has a short essay on each season of the year. And you think, well, that's 4 seasons. No, there are 48 seasons of the year, right? At least, right? If not more, because each week, each short period, you'd be surprised, has its own characteristics. And so we think of winter as just, one long gray period with cold weather. But in fact, there are at least 20 different seasons within that period that if you understand them and if you follow them, help you deal with all this stuff. So whatever is on the outside, right, affects what's on the inside of you. And if you know that, it helps. Mm-hmm. That's what happened to me when I stopped smoking. I was going crazy. I could get on the bandwagon here or get on the soapbox and talk about addiction, but nature is the answer. It sure was for me. Mm-hmm. And
I can see why people blame it on the rain. I guess you take it to a new level. It's like, why'd your team lose? I blame it on the rain.
That's right. Well, and it's true. Those things affect you, and we don't like to admit that. I'm as much a homebody as anybody. I mean, I like to be warm at night, and I like to sit by the fire, and I like to be comfortable. But on the other hand, you can take that too far, and if you don't stay in touch with what's going on around you, then you isolate yourself from a lot of isolate yourself from understanding some of the things that are probably affecting your brain and your body and your health and so forth.
Mm-hmm. Right. And then where can we find Poor Will's Almanac at and your other books?
Well, everything that I have is on Amazon, and it's also available. Everything is available on my website, poorwillsalmanac.com. And of course, it's Poor Will's Almanac with a K. Right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the only almanac out there that has a K on the end of it. It's the old-fashioned spelling.
Mm-hmm. And of course, if you want to hear the forecast from Bill Felker, you can also go to his website. You can also click on the podcast. You can also listen to the forecast. I mean, he's just tells amazing stories. So if you want to go listen to what's happening with the weather, just go to his website. And lastly, Bill, since you've been great, we're looking forward to having you on soon here on the Mike Wagner Show. What can we expect from you in 2021 and beyond, Bill?
What can we expect in weather?
From no, expect from you and the weather. So what can we expect from you and then expect the weather. So it's one part you and then the weather. And don't blame it on situations. So.
Okay, I wouldn't do that. No. Well, it's never my fault. It's always the weather's fault. That's how I do it.
Or a weatherman, or a weatherwoman, or National Weather Service, wherever that is. So.
That's right. Now, for me, I'm busy putting together the almanac for 2022.
Oh my goodness!
Well, you got to get a head start on these things, and the nice thing about keeping records is that you've got all this information that you can put into new material and reinterpret what will happen. And so I'm working on 2022 right now, and I'm also working on another one of my favorite projects is it's a book on the martial arts.
Oh wow, interesting.
Well, that's another story. That's another story that goes back to the smoking and nicotine. But I got into Aikido and working, doing physical things as part of my nicotine addiction reaction. And even though I'm not doing that anymore, I have kept, of course, I kept notes on everything I did and everything I've read, and I want to share that with people, and so I think I'll call my book, Shadow Boxing at 80.
Wow.
Because I'm 80 now. I just turned 80 this past summer, and I still work out and I go through my katas or my forms every day, and I'm putting that into book form, and I'm hoping to have that done in 2021. And so and that'll be a different approach to dealing with the monsters that might be inside a person.
Wow.
Nothing like physical activity and taking notes in nature to cure what ails you, Mike.
Wow, that's interesting. I'd love to have you back in 2021. Not only talk more about the Poor Will's Almanac, what's up for 2022, maybe 23, 24 more. What about your new book, Shadow Boxing? And by the way, happy birthday to as well, too. Happy Big 8-0. So.
Hey, thank you, Mike.
Well, I'm glad that got you going here. So we're here with author and host on public radio, Bill Felker here on the Mike Wagner Show. A very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely fantastic. Love to have you back on soon. And just a couple more things we should say. Who do you consider biggest influence in your career, Bill?
The biggest influence in my career was a guy named Don Wallace. He passed away about 8 years ago, and he was that newspaper editor who told me, now, Billy, if you do one almanac, you gotta do more. You gotta do them every week. And he was a mentor to me and encouraged me on. And he was a lover of the Ohio River and has a number of books out on on the Ohio River, and about a legendary person of the Ohio called Harlan Hubbard. And Harlan was a great naturalist and a riverboat man. And anyway, Don Wallace was the man. There was nobody like him.
Mm-hmm.
I would never have done what I did without him.
And he sounds like an amazing man as well, too. And what's the best advice you can give to anybody at this point, Bill?
Well, somebody asked me the other day, or actually the other year, they asked me what should I tell my daughter who's interested in being a scientist, and I said, there's only one thing that you have to do, and that's take notes.
Mm-hmm.
Keep watching. If you watch, if you observe, and you either record it in your memory or on paper, you're on the way to understanding not only the world but yourself too. And that's what you do.
That's amazing. I should do that more often, take notes in my life. I need to do that. And once again, Bill Felker here on the Mike Wagner Show. Bill, a very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely great. Looking forward to having you again soon. Do us a favor. Keep us up to date. Love you back on in 2021 and beyond, 22, 23 if you like. And once again, tell us about your upcoming projects. What's your website? How do people contact you? Where can people purchase the books and check out your podcast and your radio program?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. You can find everything that I have on poorwillsalmanac.com, and if you look up Bill Felker on Amazon, you'll find all my books too, and an author's page. You can always go to NPR Radio, WYSO, to pick up my podcasts, or it may be simpler, go to Spotify and check out Poor Will's Almanac on Spotify. There are all kinds of podcasts there. And, Mike, these podcasts are short. They're like 2 to 3 minutes. And so if you have an attention deficit problem, you're going to love Poor Will's Almanac.
Go ahead, keep going here. I was just going to tell my sons that, but I guess my personal ADHD kicked in. I'm kidding.
Hey, well, I know what you mean, right? I've had people tell me that they sit and they take a 200-mile drive and they've been listening to Poor Will the whole way, and one podcast after another because they're short, and they make the point, but you go on to the next one. You don't like one, there's always another one waiting. So, but anyway, there's a great reservoir of those on Spotify and on WYSO in Yellow Springs. So I'd love to have you visit me there.
Well, we definitely will. And of course, listen to a podcast. Well, today is, look at Kitty. So we will certainly do so. Once again, Bill, a very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely great. Looking forward to having you again soon. Do us a favor. Keep this up to date. Love you back on in 2021 and beyond. And if you want to do 2022, 2023, we'll make definite notes and we can just journal on, continue our adventure. And don't forget to keep in touch. You've been absolutely fantastic, Bill.
Mike, thank you so much for having me. Good luck to you now.
The Mike Wagner Show is powered by Sonic Web Studios. If you're looking to start or upgrade your online presence, visit www.sonicwebstudios.com for all of your online needs. Sonic Web Studios specializes in custom web design, app development, social networking, search engine optimization, domain registration, email marketing, online stores, and more. Since our birth, we have been designing and developing immaculate websites and providing web solutions which are a cut above the rest. As a leading web designing enterprise, we have a team of extremely talented web designers who are well-focused and have the experience of working on multiple web developing platforms such as PHP, Magento, custom WordPress, and more. Sonic Web Studios has been helping businesses of all kinds, whether big, small, established, or startup, impress their audiences with exemplary web solutions. We don't just create beautiful and functional websites. We give you a complete online solution with the main goal of enhancing your yearly revenues. We aim to give your business the online exposure and brand acknowledgement that will help you in achieving increased conversions leading to profitable sales. Call 1-800-303-3960. or visit us online at www.sonicwebstudios.com to get started today. Mention The Mike Wagner Show and get 20% off your project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level.
Hey everybody, my name is Forbes Riley, and I'm an American actress and a TV host. And I was delighted when I got my copy of Missing, which is Extraordinary Relation of Ordinary People based on a real-life relationship. It's well written. It's amazing. You know, it talks about a man who has lost his wife and his daughter, and it's very well done. I'm going to highly recommend that you go get your copy of Missing. It is a powerful, exciting read. Mr. Mian Moshe Zia. He is the author of Missing. And I want to give a big shout out and a kiss all the way halfway around the world to my dear friend. Check him out at Mia's website. It's called www.miamotionzea.com. Missing, available on Amazon. Again, I'm Forbes Riley, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to The Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. The Mike Wagner Show can be heard on Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, YouTube, Anchor FM, Radio Public, and themikewagnershow.com. Please support our program with your donations at themikewagnershow.com. Join us again next time for another great episode of The Mike Wagner Show.